Welcome everybody. So we got an interesting subject today. So hopefully a bunch of you guys are available to chime in. This is kind of an open-ended thing. Um, so the question of the day is, what's more difficult, like grappling or MMA? Because right now there's always that whole thing where it's like, oh, we have a good grappler, good jiu-jitsu person. So it's like the person right now who is like a really good jiu-jitsu person who's getting into MMA is Buchecha, right? And he's I think he's gonna be fighting in one championship, so in Asia, and uh, and also there's talk about like other people. So like Gary Tonin has also fought in MMA and all that, and but a lot of people say like, well, is like if you have a great grappler, then like the way to prove how good he is if he can win an MMA, he or she can win an MMA. Um, is that a real comparison or not? So let me know what you guys think. I'm also using a new microphone, so let me know if you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me. I'd hate for you to not be able to hear me. That would be a real tragedy there. So anyway, so that's kind of the question we have today. I kind of want to run through some points because like I work at a MMA school, right? So done plenty of sparring in MMA or yeah MMA, and then also I've won a couple national kickboxing tournaments, and also won a bunch of grappling and stuff like that. Let me go and turn down the mic. Thanks for letting me know the mic is noisy. All right, how about there? Does that sound a little bit better, Neil? Thanks for letting me know. Is that sounding better? Give me a response. Uh, okay, so having been familiar with a lot of these styles and competing, and also just like training in these different styles, um, um, like is it just not? Can you still hear me? What do you mean it went back? It went back to just not. You're not. Is it just quiet? Should be okay. All right. We'll just keep going. So let me know. Let me know if there's any, or maybe let me go ahead and just change the position. Sounds like someone's hitting it. Let me go ahead and move the position here. All right. This will be directly in front of me. Yeah, this will be directly in front of me. So now should sound better. And let me go ahead and turn it up a little bit here. Okay, so yeah, thanks for your feedback, Neil. I'll go ahead and switch it up there. Hopefully it sounds better. Um, okay, so have a lot of experience doing both, like MMA, even kickboxing with the Chinese kickboxing. So it has some grappling in it. So even though you're wearing boxing gloves, you can still grab some person and then throw them down. So it has a lot of like the stand-up throws, kind of like judo or Greco kind of. And so with that being said, sometime recently I've been kind of thinking that maybe the grappling stuff is a little bit more difficult than the MMA stuff because, say, if in an MMA situation, if you're grabbing on someone, you're trying to grapple, and you're trying to say if you're going for a double wrist lock or something, and they're really resisting, if you can get one hand free, you can start like punching them, or one of the positions that I like is getting someone to Super Nelson. So you just really kind of pin their head down to the mat, and then you can like knee them from their body, or if you do Asian rules, right? You can knee them in the head and all that. So uh, in a way, uh, the strikes and stuff can make your whole objective of winning even easier, right? So feel free at any time if anybody who's listening to the live stream, go ahead and start commenting because it's kind of what I've just been experiencing, where it's like So if you're trying to just do like a catch wrestling or grappling, like a nogi jiu-jitsu kind of situation, um, in order for you to dominate or to beat that person, it's actually a little bit harder, right? Since you don't have the ways to kind of distract them or kind of soften them up, right? So you can't knee them in the body or like really hurt them, right? There's still like some pain compliance stuff. And there's still a lot of pain compliance stuff in grappling and in particular wrestling. But yeah, you don't necessarily have like full on strikes, right? Where you can like do hammer fists and stuff, like knee strikes to the torso and stuff or to the head, right? So in a way, you'll have a little bit of a more difficult time to say like maneuver someone. So if they're face down, to throw them back onto their back so they're face up, right? That's kind of a tall order sometimes if you're like, going up against someone who's really good. Um, all right, so that's weird. So you're saying that you can't quite hear it? How about now? If I have the microphone like right in front of me, it's like right next to me. I'll just hold it the whole time, right? So let me know if this is better, because it should be the settings should be all right. Settings should be okay. So yeah, let me know. Okay, so maybe it's just too far away, and I just gotta hold it right in front of me the whole time. So okay, I gotta do what I gotta do, right? Um, So let me know if I would explain anything like that again. So ultimately, uh, I think MMA can make winning somewhat easier because of the strikes. Whereas if you're trying to submit somebody or pin them in a grappling match, then you're going to have to really be skillful and know your techniques really well so that you can like force them to go where you need them to go, right? So that's kind of one of the main points I have. And then, but you actually see some people who are able to like be almost like pure jujitsu artists, do well in MMA. There was a while where everyone was thinking that you only do jujitsu is the winningest style for MMA, so it got really popular. That's basically how MMA started. It was kind of like um, a marketing scheme for Gracie Jiu Jitsu, and yeah, I think they did a great job with that marketing, right? But nowadays, a lot of people talk about how like a lot of the UFC champions are more wrestling oriented people, and the people that I work with in China as well, they're thinking like the wrestling is a little bit more important than just doing jujitsu, and so you have these different markets that are coming in, or these different people from different countries who are getting into like one championship. That also like this one woman who's really coming up in one championship. She comes from that really famous wrestling family in India. They made a whole movie about them and all that. So she's winning. She's doing really well. I think she's had at least two fights in one championship, and um, she just dominated. You also have another woman from Japan. She's like a judo black belt, and she's also just like destroying everybody. And like the people that she's fighting against are just like say like different women who come from very striking backgrounds, like like Muay Thai in particular, because I mean just of the region there, they have a lot of people fighting that come out of Thailand, whether or not they're Thai or not. They'll be people who have moved to Thailand and spent extensive amount of time there training in Muay Thai in order to fight in MMA. So you'll have some grapplers who, regardless of their level of striking ability, they're still able to turn the MMA match into a grappling match. So I mean, there's definitely something to be said about that. Um, and like UFC, what I'm at least my opinion is like a lot of people are reverting to boxing. Even maybe they'll throw a few kicks here and there, but it seems to be more hands oriented or boxing oriented. Um, So you won't see as much of a variety as like at least in my opinion as when you watch MMA coming from one championship or some of the other Asian MMA promotions. But that's just, I think it's kind of regional differences. But so I guess with that being said, I mean in UFC you're going to be having a lot of people with the like we know with the wrestling background who are doing really well, and oftentimes it is actually that folk style wrestling background more so than the like even judo or even like freestyle, which a lot of people around the world do. Actually, what everyone else besides the United States does in their schools. All right, so let's go ahead and take Neil's comment. So yeah, thank you for being with me here, Neil, because you're really helping me out. Hopefully the audio still sounds good. I'm trying to get the hang of this new microphone, so yeah. Anyway, so to your comment, right? So I see it returning to old school boxing. Yeah. That's kind of how I'm seeing it too. So you'll see like a person who maybe regardless of the background, but say maybe we'll just say like a wrestler, right? So an American folk style wrestler, maybe not they whether or not they competed uh, in in university or not doesn't matter, but um, they kind of pick up boxing and then they're doing all right, like or they do enough and or they do it well enough. I think maybe like an example of someone who did very well in MMA that kind of had that background would be Ben Askren, right? Like he was able to like win. He was able to win. He was able to stay undefeated with like rudimentary striking and but mostly wrestling, just being able to stay on top of the person and pepper them with his punches even though they didn't seem to be so devastating, right. um all right, so let's see. So Neil saying kind of like Fedor style. Yeah, kind of in a way. He would kind of throw these big looping punches, and a lot of times it would land. Like one of the biggest examples would be Fedor versus Tim Sylvia. Did you guys see that one? I don't know if anybody listening saw that one. Like when that fight started, Tim Sylvia was larger than Fedor, and um, he just hit him with like three or four of these kind of looping kind of hooks that he does and pretty much stunned him and was able to just take him down and beat him. But yeah, Fedor, he preferred to stay on top. I think a big example of him staying on top would be that him versus Nogueira in Pride. Um, so that'd be kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, a lot of people thought Nogueira he could just submit anybody and but wasn't able to submit Fedor, right? And so Fedor, even though they talk about him being kind of like a sambo fighter, it's like, what did he ultimately do? He was able to get some submissions and stuff like that, but he kind of just stuck with these strikes, right? Like these punches, because um, those weird punches that he would do, they were weird and they actually gave him problems because a lot of times after a fight, you'd see in the news that he had broken a bone in his thumb or he'd broken some kind of finger bone, right, in his hands and stuff. So he often had to take a lot of time off in order for that to repair and just be recovered, right? So I think you're kind of right there, where it's like you'll see someone where like even though they might have some grappling background, then they're not necessarily able to impose that game or their game plan or even their grappling style when the strikes are involved. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're like a bad grappler or they were unable to overcome the strikes and stuff like that. Or it doesn't mean like the grappling is bad or weak or whatever. It just means that the games are different, right? So the different rules and stuff. So you'll kind of have to play accordingly, right? Um, so kind of going back to the original point here, it's like, then what do you guys think is more difficult then, right? If you can be in MMA rules where you'll still have the grappling there available for you, but if they're not moving for you or into a submission position, you can kind of loosen them up by by striking, um, or you can try to improve your game, right, or improve your techniques and get them to move how you need them to move, right. You can also, like I said, you can use some pain compliant stuff, um, but like it's still different. And in that way, I'm kind of leaning more towards grappling being a little tougher, right? Because you'll have a person who's not worried about getting knocked out, right? So then they're going to be using a lot of force against you. They really shouldn't be, but I mean, my experience grappling with all kinds of people, um, some people will, try to like use as much resistance as they can to make sure that you can't like roll them over or that you can't submit them. So I think you have that, and I think they'll because you can't loosen them up by kneeing them in the torso or anything like that, then they can get away with some of that stuff. You definitely have to work on your conditioning a lot as well, because if someone's resisting you as hard as they can, then you're gonna have to allow them to burn off all that fuel, right, all the energy, in order to then kind of soften them up that way, right? So there's ways of softening people up, but like in grappling, when you can't be striking them and kind of like striking, kicking, and punching and stuff like that, then you're probably gonna have to um, you're gonna have to let them wear themselves out, really. Or if you're on top, I mean, basically, hopefully you can stay on top, and you can just keep them tied up. You'll be riding them, right? You can have hooks in and make them fight to get out. That's tiring, right? Tiring for them. And then once they tire themselves out, then you'll have a little bit more of a pliable person to move around, right, and submit. All right. So Neil, yeah. So you truly love seeing scarf holds. Yeah, yeah. Me too. A lot of times we call those head and arm rides in catch wrestling. Um, but yeah, like since I mentioned, I think her last name is Hirata in one championship. So that was one of the women that I mentioned earlier. I think she's a judo black belt from Japan, and she's fighting in one championship, and I think she's got at least a few finishes. So with kind of that scarf hold, and she's able to transition, say, from a throw to scarf hold and to a submission in a bunch of her fights, and those are always available on YouTube. Like, that's the other cool thing about one championship is that they put everything online for free for everyone to see. So you can see a lot of good skill. Actually, you see a lot of great skill um, from there. I really think a lot of the striking is, gives people, especially like say like ones who've crossed over from UFC to one championship, they've had a hard time. They've had to really um, make sure that they were tough enough to withstand a lot of that striking, right? So in that way, like you're definitely going to have to be able to take a lot of punishment in order to impose like your grappling game, right? Like say if you guys have seen the fights with Gary Tonin, I think he hasn't, or I don't think they've given him like the best of the best. I met one of the guys that he had a match against when I was in Singapore last. This Indian guy, I believe well, if he was in Singapore, I believe he lives in Singapore because they have a high Indian population there. Um, but he was all right, but he actually held off Gary Tonin's attacks, like submission attacks, for a long time in their fight. But I don't think they've given him like the highest level guys yet. I think they put Demetrius Johnson up against some of their higher level guys like right off the bat, because I mean, like seriously, you need to, right? Because he's already such a high level athlete. And same thing with Eddie Alvarez. And Eddie, I believe he lost a match already in one championship. So that's kind of one of the differences between UFC, or at least Western. So I would put Bellator in that category with UFC, where it's like you kind of are seeing this kind of similar kind of boxing with some wrestling style going on. Um, all right, Neil. So you're asking what's the woman's name that keep mentioning, right? I think it's Itsuki Hirata. So Hirati. I mean, Hirata. Hirata. She's like she dyed her hair blonde. So if you look it up, you can just look up one championship Hirata, and you'll see a blonde Japanese woman. That's her. And then they'll probably have like highlights or most like impressive wins or whatever. They'll have stuff like videos like that. I think that's what pretty cool with one championship. They really try to build up each athlete, and that's another thing. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that, but but there's a difference in like the news with regards to UFC, because I guess there was a little bit of news about the UFC's deal with ESPN, and since we had COVID, right? They've like I guess originally they intended on UFC having more events throughout this year, and that was part of their contract. And of course, they weren't able to. And then you had some athletes that couldn't compete because they tested positive. And but what the main problem is that they haven't quite built up each athlete so that the average fan wouldn't know a lot of the people who are competing in UFC, right? So then they can't quite sell these fight cards, right? So you'll have uh, like um, basically people aren't excited, so then viewership goes down and all that. So that's kind of one of the things I've been reading recently, where it's like uh, compared to one championship. Like if you look at one championship social media, they're always trying to let or introduce these different fighters to you. So the men and the women, and they kind of show you some of their personalities and stuff like that. So one that I know, it's a woman who lives here in LA. Then like if she puts out something kind of like interesting or funny on her social media, then they'll reshare it on their social media. And so that's kind of what they do with all of their fighters. So in that way, people can know more about each person, so that you can get like more emotionally invested when they have a fight card, right? So that's kind of one thing that's happening. Um, all right, Neil. So you found her. So all right, cool. So it's good to hear. But yeah, so but then say if you look at the social media of one champion or UFC, there's a lot of really polished pictures or some videos where it's kind of like some highlights, or really good pictures of some of the fight cards, or maybe some of the people who are maybe the more popular ones or the better known. But a lot of times it takes a little while for people to become better known in in that organization, as opposed to them kind of introducing the audience to uh, the fighters, right? So then um, that's kind of what it sounded like based on the news I've been reading. So they were kind of having this difficulty with their contract with ESPN. But yeah, I mean they still have a great facility, right? Because they've been having these past few fights, right, in basically in their office in Las Vegas, right? Because if you've never been there in Vegas, they have like this really cool compound, and they have like at least two big buildings. I think one is like one of more of their offices, and then I think the other one is where they have those events that you've been seeing a lot, like on especially like a lot of the ESPN events, are basically where they're trying to keep COVID from entering, right? So then where there's no audience and all that's kind of like the big multi-purpose room where they put the octagon in there. I'm assuming that's just like their second building that they're using, because they have a pretty big compound, just um, right close to the 15 free. Well, if you guys don't know about about all the details about Las Vegas, right? So it's just a little bit out of the strip, a little bit off the strip to the west, right? Uh, um, oh, so Neil, you're saying that you usually use Reddit. Like, so do you mean you use Reddit to kind of find out about who the people are, or um, uh, what? In which way are you using Reddit to get information from MMA or of MMA or grappling. All right. So also anybody else, feel free to comment because I want this one to be a little bit more open ended. So the main topic is, what do you think is more difficult, grappling or MMA? Right? Because grappling and also to say like MMA, it has become very regulated in that we have a structure that pretty much all the organizations follow, where we have like the round system. So you'll have like they do it where it's like 5 minute rounds. And what was cool about like Dream or like Pride or whatever, a lot of times they did like a 10-minute first round, which I thought was really cool because that allowed the action to unfold a little bit. Um, but say like in our events in the Catch Wrestling Alliance, we have one match and it's a 20-minute time limit. So you can also kind of let things unfold. You can also use the whole strategy of whether or not you're going to try to tire out someone. Um, and also, yeah, you shouldn't necessarily be trying to, you know, shoot your shot right, like or waste all your energy right at the beginning because if it doesn't work, if you shoot your shot right and it doesn't work, and then you're tired, right? And then you just get dominated until you get pinned or submitted, right? So the other aspect we were talking about with regards to the differences between grappling and MMA is that you can use strikes, right, to kind of soften the other person up, right? So in a way, with regards to a 20-minute catch wrestling match, um, you can use fatigue, right? You can use your whole idea of like trying to tire out somebody else to soften them up in that way. And with regards to that, or that whole idea, now you have someone really famous in the grappling world, Gordon Ryan. He's advocating for 30-minute rounds or 30-minute matches, right? And I believe, I think it was like Fight to Win or one of the ones on Flow Grappling. They obliged him. I think his last match was a 30-minute time limit against the, oh man, I forgot his name, but he was one of Marcelo Garcia's best black belts. I guess he was undefeated for a few years once he became black belt or something like that. And um, but he was able, but Gordon Ryan was able to submit him, but they allowed that 30-minute time limit, which I'm all for that. Actually, I really like that. Um, because you get to see a little bit more of a pure grappling whereas like a lot of the Olympics and even like a lot of jiu-jitsu matches, right? So even in IBJJF or a lot of the tournaments that you have around, where it's like a lot of them are like 5 minute matches, right? And then that's why they have to have these point systems. And um, so if nothing happens within those 5 minutes, at least there's some kind of way to determine a winner, right? So if you have like these longer matches, right, as opposed to say like MMA, where you have where pretty much it's kind of uniform now around the world, where you have like these 5 minute rounds, and the amount of rounds differ, right? So I know like in some well, I think it's like Road FC, they'll have a lot of 2 round fights, right? And then we have like like the whole championship thing where it's like they'll have like 5 rounds for a championship fight and stuff like that. And that's another point I'd like to mention, where it's like I do believe in a way it's like you have like say boxing, where they'll have many rounds, right? A fight is scheduled for many rounds, but in kickboxing and MMA, I do believe that it is a little bit more difficult, and that's why they'll have fewer rounds, right? Because of the whole mix of the kicking, punching, and grappling. Um, so there's that. So there's a lot of different things you can kind of point to, whether to support your argument, right? Whether or not MMA um, or MMA or grappling is more difficult. So Jumpy Killer Ox thinks MMA is more difficult, right? And let me see, Niels, you're saying sometimes amateurs post their fights, probably on like Reddit and stuff. You usually enjoy amateur fights better because you can see mistakes better. Um, Jumpy Killer Ox time knees and uppercuts can hurt grapplers if they don't set up their takedowns with their hands. Yeah. If they don't tie you up and like get those openings, yeah, of course, that's exactly right. I mean, they're setting themselves up for uppercuts, right, or knee strikes. Also, too, if they're what I've noticed over the years and what I try to teach people is that like a lot of times what you'll see is someone if they kind of get clinched up and they know that knee strikes are there, then they'll start looking down at the knee strikes. I don't believe you should be doing that because there's a bunch of easy ways to defend against the knee strikes, and so that you shouldn't necessarily have to be like focused downwards. Like so, if your face is looking down, that's when it's really great to throw an uppercut. Right? I did that in the last national tournament that I did. um, I kept kneeing this guy over and over. Like once I grabbed him, like I would try to knee to get close to him. Like I kind of like reach out my hand, grab, and like throw a knee, and then put both hands around his neck, and then keep kneeing him. And then it got to the point where yeah, he started looking down to see if he can counter, so he can throw me down or not. And when he did that, then I just like did this. I uppercutted him as hard as I could, and then it just like it made his nose bleed like just instantly. Um, and needle yeah, so that like you guys have really good points there. um you, so with regards to that though, I would say like if you're a grappler, don't be looking down, right? And ideally, you should learn some defense if you do get caught in that situation where they have you, or they call it like in the tie plum or just any kind of clinch where they're going to be throwing knee strikes. Um, I'd say still keep your posture, right? You don't have to be completely upright. That is one way to combat knees. If you start uh, becoming a little bit more upright, then it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to throw effective knees, like to really kind of load up that knee and really hit you hard with it. But I would say you can still keep a good fighting stance, still kind of be looking forward, and you can be striking, right? And then you can wait for your time to time that knee, and then you can take them down. Actually, that's one of the main ones. I think I've probably put it in a video in the past here, um, but it's definitely part of that one. I made a video course on our web channel or our website, the CWA Academy, where we mix some of the Sanda takedowns and catch wrestling takedowns. We show you how to use them against strikes, especially kicks and stuff. So those of you who want to know how to use your catch wrestling in MMA situation, that's the course that I designed. And so that I guess so right now until the end of the month I'm gonna keep it at 50% off on our website, and I already put the link down in the description box if you guys are interested in that. It's got a lot of cool things, and that was good thing that you mentioned that because it reminded me of it because that's one of the lessons in that video course. So yeah, don't necessarily like be looking down because yeah, uppercuts, knees, so good against say some regular grappler who might just be trying to go in for a double leg or something like that. So Jumpy Ox, the best example of a grappler that sets up his takedowns really well with his hands is DC. Yeah, I think that's why DC was one of the most successful people. He had a great record as well, right? So that's kind of a testament to that. But then you see, like, you have like a really high level wrestler with Ben Askren, and like, he didn't set up much of anything well, right? So he took a lot of damage, and then ultimately, with that Jorge Masvidal fight, where he just got put to sleep real quick with a knee, right? So kind of going back to your guys' things, your guys' points, right, with regards to that difference. Um, yeah, so keep the comments coming. So yeah, I'm still kind of leaning towards uh well, I guess I get tired anyway, right? Like I think it's both whether MMA rules sparring or just kickboxing rules sparring or catch wrestling rules sparring, you get a great workout. I'll get tired either way, right? So I personally like to do about I try to do like around 10 rounds, or sometimes I'll mix it up where it's like 3 rounds of one thing and 3 rounds of another style and 3 rounds of another rule set. um, So let me know how you guys are working out. I know a lot of the gyms should still be closed, and I think we're probably going to get a lot more closures in different parts of the country that weren't closed down nowadays. That's why I just train with like a couple people right now because actually one that I know tested positive for COVID, um, and so we had to help him out. And luckily, I didn't test positive. So I'm all right. I did the most, they stuck that stick in my nose and all that. Um, but yeah, he started getting symptoms, and um, but he's recovering, so that's great. Great news. So yeah, everyone be careful, please, because you don't know how your body's going to react. I believe, from what I've heard, some reports where there's some going back to the whole thing about UFC kind of. I guess contractually they're supposed to have put out more events this year. Some of the fighters that they're not talking about, that some of their more popular ones who've tested positive, some are actually still kind of struggling with it. So they tested positive long ago, and they're kind of like they're still like they wouldn't necessarily be having like they're not on a ventilator or anything like that. They've somewhat recovered, but because uh, the disease kind of is affecting different parts of our body, they're still having these like leftover symptoms that are really affecting their training and stuff like that. So, and these are of course very healthy people, like people who exercise a lot. So, um, don't take it lightly. I think a lot of people in the United States are taking it lightly, and are too lightly, right? And I think that's a mistake, and I think that's why we're struggling to get back to normal or normalish, right? Right. So, Neil, depends on what you need to work on. Yeah. So let me ask you guys this then: do you think that or what? So one of you guys already gave your opinion that you think MMA is harder um, than grappling. Anybody think that grappling is harder? Go ahead and comment and let us know, right? Because and then also, so going back to UFC, I mean, you have Bryce Mitchell. We did a video about him. He's actually doing pretty well. His last fight in UFC was in Vegas, right, a few weeks ago, and um, he was having a great time. Like he was throwing all these different kinds of kicks. Like he even did like like a crescent kick, where that's one where you throw your leg up and you kind of swing it over, and I think it still hit the guy. And but then he would like from distance, like just shoot in, and he was able to get a lot of takedowns. So um, in that way, the whole striking stuff didn't necessarily apply. Where his opponent wasn't necessarily able to put up like an effective defense striking wise against Bryce's kind of more wrestling oriented offense. And ultimately, Bryce won, but I believe it went the distance. Um, so I don't know. It almost in a way Bryce made it almost look easy, right? So whereas, what do you think? Do you think that if it was a pure rest or grappling match, do you think Bryce would have had as easy of a time if he didn't have kind of like these strikes or different ways to fatigue his opponent? Like that he like the stuff he has in UFC that are legal, like all these different types of strikes, or if it was a pure grappling match where you have to use technique to like roll someone over without the use of like those techniques of kneeing and elbows and stuff. Um, yeah, I think it's an interesting question. Sometimes I get really, really tired. Uh, uh, well, I guess they're all challenging. I think they're all a great workout. So I guess it depends on what you enjoy more. But um, let me see. So Neil, to be honest, I think every gym probably does open, right? If they should check everyone's temperature. Yeah. I think some of the places were doing that. When I was in Vegas, these past few months, they didn't necessarily do that, but they had people checking masks and all that, and I think all the hotels and stuff that were open, they checked temperatures of people in order for them to be able to go in or not. So, um, yeah, yeah. So let's try to get over this as soon as possible because personally, like I have students in other countries, and that's the other thing. And so it's like we have so few catch wrestling, like authentic catch wrestling coaches around. So we have people who are taking our online courses at the CWA Academy. They're taking the online courses from their countries, and they would like it if I could go there, right? But like right now, Americans are banned, right? Like people from the United States, U.S. citizens are banned in so many countries. Right, right. Jumpy Killer Rocks. The most for most people, wrestling and dirty boxing are pretty useful. Yeah, I agree. If you can kind of be close to the person, or maybe even like kind of get them up against the cage, which I believe Randy Couture made really famous, where he was able to use his wrestling ability to keep the pressure on the person, and I think he did it really famously against Gabriel Gonzaga, because Gonzaga really made a name for himself when he knocked out Crow Cop. Right, no one expected him to win, and then he just knocked out Crow Cop. Um, so so it was pretty great. It was pretty interesting to see some guy, especially at that time. Um, Randy Couture is definitely he was always the older person usually because he started MMA much later. He was I can't remember which age, but he was already probably mid 30s and stuff when he really got into it. Um, so and that'd be another thing for people to think about, where it's like the whole every once in a while we kind of talk about that, where it's like a lot of times it's not necessarily the age, but it's like how much damage you take, right? So if you're able to mitigate all that damage that you take and kind of still use your grappling pressure, your wrestling pressure, like the way Randy Couture did, then he was able to use his dirty boxing against a big big opponent, Gabriel Gonzaga, who had just come off of knocking out one of the best heavyweight kickboxers in MMA with Crow Cop. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with if you want to be only doing the MMA, then yeah, you definitely have to combine more things. Yeah, grappling is really a great skill set to have. And for me in particular, I think it's catch wrestling, which is the greatest right skill set. Especially if you know I would say like if the the most legit catch wrestling you can learn, it really is wrestling heavy, and that's what we're trying to show you with our all of our events and all that, and uh, all of our technique videos and all that. For a while there, I wasn't really even showing much submissions. I polled you guys, so thank you for like responding to the poll, and it seems like most of you guys want takedowns, right? So we'll definitely be working on that as well. I think we already have. Oh, I did one, and so next week it'll be one takedown for you guys, and I think you can definitely use that no matter where you are, whether it's an MMA situation or a catch wrestling situation or no gi, probably even gi too, right? Even though that's the one thing I don't really do. I was mentioning grappling with jujitsu rules and catch wrestling rules and doing different kickboxing and then MMA rules and stuff like that. But yeah, the one thing that the rules that I don't really do are putting on those jackets. Usman did the same with Masvidal. Yeah, using his like talk about a great use of wrestling, right? Usman, because and also I think Um, a, even another great example with Usman and wrestling is Usman versus the D1 wrestler Tyron Woodley. Man, Woodley was like on his butt, like like for a long time, right? During that fight, and he wasn't able to launch a successful offense, right? So that was one of the things they were trying to say, like, oh well, Woodley was Division 1, and Usman like is not, right? But I think he was like Division 2 or something like that. But They often kind of now in the wrestling community they'll try to say like, oh, if you're D1 you're a stud. Um, if you're D2 you're a stud. If you're JUCO, which is like the junior college league, you're a stud. So yeah, a lot of times like Division 1, it just means that at that time where they were recruiting you, right when you're graduating high school, uh, they wanted you, right? But it doesn't mean that you can't improve to become like a spectacular wrestler, grappler later, or at any time. So I think it's kind of what we're seeing with Usman, where it's like, yeah, maybe he wasn't at a school that had a D1 program, but he still dominated a D1 wrestler, which he put on a great show. And so let me go ahead and get back to your guys' question. Also, so Neil, are you back with the gym stuff? Yeah, sanitize everything. Yeah, sanitize everything. With it, that's the thing about COVID, where I think a lot of people are actually finally following like all the the rules they should have been following. I mean, gyms in particular, they've always been a place where you can like catch some kind of bug, right? So, gyms, because I've been working in gyms since like the '90s, really like the late '90s or early 2000s. Um, I was at the university gym, so they were really strict about cleanliness. But then when I worked at a gym outside, I mean, or if I've been to different gyms, and uh, some of them are more filthy than others, right? So I think nowadays, I think they're gonna have to actually do like the minimum, right? Which the minimum is actually pretty good because yeah, like frequent cleaning of surfaces and all that. That's kind of what it is, right? All right, so yeah, go ahead and keep the comments coming. I think is really interesting. Thank you, Jumpy Killer Ox and Neil for commenting the most. Let me know if you guys also have any questions too. We can talk about other subjects, but I definitely wanted to talk about this because I just had been thinking about that. 'Cause I've been when I've been sparring with MMA rules, then maybe I've been getting punched, and then just thinking like, well, if he couldn't punch me, then he'd actually have to use some technique to move me. So that's why I was thinking like, well, is grappling or wrestling more difficult than MMA in that way, right? Um, so let me know. Let me know. Keep the comments coming. Otherwise, I'll just take my microphone that's not working well and leave, right? Yeah. Um, yeah. Hopefully, everyone had a great holiday. This is like a lot of people were traveling. It was like the most busy traveling time of the entire year usually, and I think people, um, even though they were being told not to travel, I think it still was a major traveling day. Um, and now we have like what Native American. I want to give a shout out to, was it Native American History Day, right? Which was like Friday. It was like Black Friday was actually that day, and since I'm Native, then I want to give a shout out to all the other natives. Another thing, like last year on Black Friday, I actually was with my parents at a powwow, um, and that didn't happen. I don't think because they live out where near where one of the reservations is, and my cousins live on the reservation, and so they were. So anyway, we all got together at the powwow. So giving you a little bit more information about me personally. All right. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any other comments or not. We have a lot more things to like. Basically, we'll just continue based off that the poll that I did of you guys. Again, thank you for commenting. A bunch of you guys voted, and so yeah, we'll be working on showing you a bunch of takedowns coming up. Also, too, then if you have any questions about other topics you'd like to talk about, just put it in the comments as well. I'd be happy to talk about it. Um, yeah, so maybe we'll go ahead and it's been quite a few minutes here, so let's go ahead and maybe let you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. So thank you guys all for watching. Feel free to join this channel. It really helps out even if it's just the at the lowest tier. It just helps out. There actually have a couple new people. I'll give you guys a shout out next time. I'll get your names and stuff. I just noticed that there are a couple new people at the lowest level, and anything helps, right? Helps keep real wrestling alive. Um, and so yeah, we'll just keep working. Feel free to comment on any of the videos. Let us know what you want. Or also, if you didn't see the poll that I put out a few days ago, go ahead and you can go vote. And also, I asked if you can comment on that post uh, any additional details, because like a lot of you, like the majority of you guys voted for learning takedowns. Um, but if there's any like situation in particular that you guys were struggling with or wanted to know about, because the video that we have for next week is based off one of your guys' um, direct questions, right? So actually, one of the members of the Catch Wrestling Alliance Academy. So definitely focus on you guys first. Any of you guys who are members of the CWA Academy, definitely focus on you guys first. But just I want to hear about everyone. I'm happy everyone's like whoever's a subscriber. If you can at least subscribe, great. If you want to take it to the next level, at the minimum tier for joining this channel, the link for that is below in the below this little window you're seeing me through. That all helps, and we also try to have we have actually quite a bit of um, behind the scenes videos and also some additional technique videos uh, on this channel if you become like the medium tier and above for our channel membership. So that's one thing that I want to let you guys know, that we have all these things for you, and they just partaking in any of it really helps out a lot. And we're hopefully because right now I'm in California, so and I'm in I'm in Los Angeles County, so we're one of the strictest counties with regards to the COVID closures and stuff. I'll see what else we can be doing for you guys to keep you guys watching, and uh, uh, keep you keep you guys learning some cool stuff, right? And also we're trying to keep um, like we'll be discussing some interesting topics as well. So anything you guys want to talk about, let me know. You can put in the comments below. Consider joining the CWA Academy if you guys want to learn the real thing and help keep real wrestling alive. Um, or if you can just help out with subscribing or at the lowest tier of the channel membership, that'd be great, because I enjoy doing this for you guys. So thank you. I appreciate you guys. All right. So I'm thankful for you, right? So it's Thanksgiving holiday, right? All right. So thank you for watching, and we'll go ahead and end it here. Feel free to keep commenting. Go ahead and comment in the description box if you're not listening to this live and you watch this later. Yeah, go ahead and leave comments. Also, this is going to be available as a podcast in probably tomorrow. So I believe you can comment on there too. If not, you can always catch us on Twitter. You can send a comment on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Uh, yeah, I think those are the major sites that we're on. Yep, I think those are the major ones. All right, so thanks for watching. Uh, See you next week.